Welcome to the Hand That Feeds HQ's monthly review. A monthly feature that is basically just another excuse for me to talk about male seiyuu music and 2D groups. Plenty of rock and hip-hop music released in this month, so there's plenty of talk about that, as well as a suspect that arrives yet again after 1 month since its release. Well, best of March, and this month was, despite my initial idea about this month, March 2022 ended up being quite awesome. And I'm saying this as I'm basically watching or reading my list of good releases of the month, and I was expecting 1 or 2, but actually there was a really good crop this month. So we have a couple of CDs I want to talk about. I'm not going to talk about all CDs released this month, although there were at least 6 that I enjoyed really much, and there are a couple that I have yet to review, so I can't say much about those. So, my first topic of the day, and quite possibly the CD that impressed me the most, was Sir Vanity's Will. Now, this is a song that wasn't scheduled, at least to the public, to be released in March, so it arrived as a surprise. It is a song by Sir Vanity, a band fronted by Yuichiro Umehara and Yoshiki Nakajima, and has the fantastic Satoru Kuwabara, one of the best composers right now in Japan, as their bassist and composer. And I must say that this song is going to hit you all in the right places emotionally. This is a song that mixes hardcore and post-rock music. Post-rock music is usually down-tempo, quite introspective, minimalistic in the way it is approached. You usually have longing guitars, a lot of effects. It's a bit closer to shoegaze rock than you would have expected. And then you have hardcore, which is basically, if you listen to the song, all the aggressiveness you have in there, the double bass drums that are relentless, the guitars that really scream throughout the song, that bass line that is even more intense than the double bassed drums, which is quite impressive. You have really a lot of aggression, a lot of emotions, raw emotions in that song, and it quite possibly is one of the best rock songs released so far in 2022, and I'm pretty sure I will be talking about this song by the end of the year, because this will for sure be on my list of the best songs released in 2022. Really good, a fantastic rock tune. If you are really a big fan of hardcore or even heavier stuff, and you really wanted a band within seiyuu music to actually dive into that, especially now that we do not have old codex in anymore, you do have in Sir Vanity's Will a fantastic song that really covers that basis and delivers much more than you would have expected at first from a band that was up until now releasing pop rock songs. So you have that, do give it a listen if you can. This is a song that I had on loop yesterday when I shouldn't have it on loop because I was on a schedule to review music. But you have that. Sir Vanity's Will is by far the best song released this month, at least for me. Then you have EROSION's OneThing. Now this is the 4th entry in the Erosion With You from Carnelian Blood CD series, which is to say, the first solo CD series in the Carnelian Blood franchise. So this one is helmed by Yoru, voiced by Arthur Lounsbury, and as usual it has a song by Erosion and a song by the character that helms that CD. Erosion's OneThing, the title track, is, I must say, the heaviest stuff that Erosion has put out. It's heavy as hell, it hits you really hard. It is a song that has a pounding bass drum and snare. It's really, once again, relentless in the way it approaches the sound, and it makes it feel like It is showcasing fragilities, but at the same time it is showing a will to grow, a determination, if you will. I don't want to make puns, but there's a pun there. To move forward. So there's that ambition, that want to move forward, and in a way showcasing weaknesses and some fragilities that are behind each character within the Carnelian Blood franchise. So that's a really good song. Now, what impresses me the most in this CD, and I must say both songs are quite impressive, really. Erosion hasn't failed so far, at least not dramatically, but Determination by Yoru, which is voiced by Arthur Lounsbury, is quite possibly one of the darkest character songs I've ever listened to. It goes really hard and it's quite minimalistic in the way it presents that aggressiveness, that despair, that will to move on but still afraid to take the first step. It's really a scream for help and please stay away at the same time. It's quite impressive in the way it presents those emotions, and Arthur Lounsbury's performance is emotionally draining to the point that you find yourself wondering if he's screaming his lungs out or if he's on the verge of crying. It's really a mix of both, as it tackles those verses and those lyrics basically with a power and a roughness in his voice that you basically can't say that didn't affect you in any way. So that's a pretty emotional song. That's a pretty emotional and deep entry in the CD series. So I'm expecting great things from Toxin's entry next month. Let's see if it measures up to these expectations that Yoru's entry has actually raised. But Erosion's OneThing may have arrived a bit subdued in comparison with all the hyped up releases of the month, but it's quite possibly one that arrived to steal the show. Now we have Fling Posse's Kizuato ga Kizuna to Naru, and this one is still looping in my head. I'm still listening to the call and response of the alright. So this is a song that I love to bits, and this of course is a single that has two different songs. It has United MCs, which is, I'm shortening the name of the song because it's quite long. United MCs by Division Leaders. That's a great song, rap rock there. It's not the first time that the Hypnosis Mic franchise explores rap rock, but the song that stole the show, and it had to be the song to steal the show, was Fling Posse's Kizuato ga Kizuna to Naru. And this song is all about groove, is all about the good times, is all about celebrating the bonds that the characters have and their passion and will to move forward after all the trials they had to overcome, and still being pretty aware of where they came from, what is basically their background. They are pretty aware of that, but they are now with the new resolve to move forward and do things a bit differently together, which is something that you can feel in that song. You can feel the bonds, you can feel the passion, you can feel the care for each other, and it is the very first time that you see and hear Fling Posse unmasked, which is to say you don't hear Ramuda with a snarky, almost joking and sarcastic in a way type of performance. Dice is not as aggressive as usual, although he's still gambling it all and not folding at all, like he says in the lyrics. And you then have Gentaro approaching the performance in a completely different way, which is to say much more serious than usual, but at the same time much gentler. There's no playing around, there's no lies in there, which is a surprise. Once again, this is a performance of three characters extremely happy of having overcome something as difficult as the second division rap battle. So that's a pretty awesome entry. Quite possibly one of the songs that I will be talking about by the end of the year, because it hasn't left my mind since I heard it, and I was looping it between CDs that I was reviewing, which is a testament to how good the song is, that it is good to the point that I use it as an intermission to prepare myself to review the next CDs, even if those have nothing to do with rap music or hip-hop. Kreva's composition and lyrics made it sure that when this song wraps up, you're all about the good vibes. You were experiencing a nostalgic 90s hip-hop sound, but with, I would say, not necessarily a modern, but a recent take on it. So it is a kind of a look into the future with a song with a retro sound, which is quite good. If you can, please check Fling Posse's Kizuato ga Kizuna to Naru, because this is awesome. Last mention, and I wasn't going to mention 4 CDs, but I'm going to mention a 4th, is Paradox Live Road to Legend. Now, this isn't necessarily a perfect CD, far from it. There are a couple of songs that will not click with everyone, especially if you like very specific sides of hip-hop and very specific approaches to hip-hop music. On my end, I've said it before, I do not enjoy pop music, at least bubbly pop music, so the generic type, and to find a little bit of K-pop in here was not really the thing I was looking for. But if you are actually someone that enjoys K-pop or J-pop, especially the bubbly part of J-pop, you have, for example, in Visti, and in a way in Bay, although Bay changed their sound for the CD, you have that in this franchise. I'm going to talk mostly about the new teams, because those are the ones that not everyone knows about. So Amprul was the team that I was looking forward to the most, and I'm glad I was looking forward to it, because did you listen to that performance? I don't really even care about the lyrics or the context within the story. Did you listen to that song? Really, the performance, the beat, the whole soundscape about that song is imposing, but not being directly aggressive at you. You will find some aggression in there, a certain sense of them being way above you, but there's something really fascinating about that song, Do As I Say, which immediately grabbed my attention. So if you do have time to check it, do give a listen to Amprul's Do As I Say, because Marini Nue is an absolute beast in that song. I'm quite impressed with the way she tackled that chorus, and wow. And Ryotaro Okyayu was also pretty awesome. I was expecting him to be a bit quieter than what he ended up being in the song, which is good, that he actually ended up being more active within that song. Still, he has less parts than Marini Nue within the song, but that may be because of the dynamic between master and servant that I find in that song and in the Amprul dynamic. You guys, of course, if you are fans of the franchise, will know better than I do. These was only the impressions that I got from listening to the song and paying attention to the lyrics. Amprul, Do As I Say, massive recommendation there, because it is awesome. Then you have In Meito with Breakout Here. That's a song that I wasn't expecting to be that simplistic. It's a bit of a mix of R&B with minimalistic electronica and hip-hop. I like that sound. So you have that, it is loungy, it is suffocating in a way, but still pretty greedy. It is a song that has quite the intent in there, quite the passion and some anger within it. It is really hard to say right now which is the dynamic really within Inmeito or Inmate and basically the rest of the cast within the Paradox Live franchise. But so far they seemed a bit on the analytics side, quite fierce in the way they rap, razor sharp performance there, and I was impressed with the chemistry between all members. I said it before, the only member I was really confident that I am pretty familiar with is Shoyachiba. There's that. Still, in Meito's, Break Out of Here is a song that I will be having on loop because that's loungy and that's a really good brand of hip-hop, really meant for when you do not or are not looking for something to be as hard-hitting as, for example, Buraikan or even Akan Yatsura or Goku Luck are. And speaking of Goku Luck, this was a group that I was curious about because I had never ever listened to Makoto Furukawa rapping. So it was quite surprising to find that Furukawa actually can deliver such a performance. It is really aggressive. He basically dominates the song. He has the most lines, I should say. Alongside Shinosuke Tachibana, he has the most lines. Shogobatori is a voice actor that I was not familiar with. He actually brought a really rough edge to the song, which was quite interesting. And Chiaki Kobayashi surprised me with his confidence and flow, which I wasn't expecting either. Now, the song was not the best for me. Right from the start, when the comparison started to be drawn between Akan Yatsura and Goku Luck, I knew that I wouldn't be enjoying their music that much. Goku Luck do have an interesting take on rap rock. Once again, rap rock is not common. It's making its way slowly into 2D music, and it's good to find them basically embracing that sound. It is aggressive, sharp at all times, but I found the chorus of this song to be quite messy in the dynamic between Shinosuke Tachibana's vocals and the rest of the rapping, and shouting in the middle. Shouting or chanting in the middle. That wasn't really that pleasing to listen to. I can understand it being quite intense and being almost like a statement, but it didn't click with me that much. Out of the new songs, I must say that really none stood out for me, basically because all groups had released previously released songs that were much better. All in all, Paradox Live's Road to Legend is a good introduction to the new teams and showcases a bit of how much the old school teams have improved and how much they are willing to stake for the next battle. So it is quite interesting to listen to, not a perfect CD by all means, and it will click or not with you depending on which rap subgenres you enjoy the most. Awesome releases, and this was only just me scratching the surface because there were plenty more releases that impressed me this month. Now it's time to see which were the CDs that impressed you the most in March 2022. Okay. So Anonymous writes Fling Posse for sure. So Fling Posse is of course the main topic of conversation this month with Kizuato ga Kizuna to Naru. This is for sure one of the best CDs released this month. Kizuato ga Kizuna to Naru is massive. It's quite possibly one of the best songs that to be released in the Hypnosis Mic franchise, and it makes me look forward to upcoming releases by Fling Posse, of course, but I do know and I am pretty aware that the next couple of CDs won't have Creva in the composition, so they will sound different. So I can understand you when you say Fling Posse for sure, because yeah, that was the release that marked this month for many people. Is right there for me with Sir Vanity's Will, and those are of course are two completely different CDs and two completely different music genres, but as far as hip-hop goes, yes, Fling Posse's Kizuato ga Kizuna to Naru is the song this month. Now, we've got a couple of comments that really dive into a CD that was already released in February. So I am expecting, or I have a faint idea that you actually came across the CDs relatively late, which is really interesting. So we have here, and I really didn't want to extend that much the conversation about Soma Saito's My Beautiful Valentine, so although we've got a couple of submissions that arrived relatively late, but still thank you for arriving to the party and joining in the, not necessarily the fun, but joining in this awesome exercise that is to listen to Soma Saito's music and actually diving deeper into all the literature, art and music that Soma Saito creates and explores, of course. Now it's time for monthly choice, which is to say, I recommend you 3 CDs to check, and I'm going to basically cheat here and I'm going to recommend CDs that were released this month or last month that I had yet to review, and I've now reviewed them and those are awesome. So, first recommendation is Reiji Amaha's Emerald Cross Amethyst. This is the last entry in the 3rd bicolor CD series in the Vez Rock franchise, and it is helmed by Takuya Sato, who I love a whole lot. This is a CD that wraps up this CD collection in a fantastic way. I was not expecting Turnaround Again to be that type of song. If you haven't heard it, please do. I'm not going to spoil it at all in this comment, and of course if you want to be spoiled, I welcome you to check the review on the website. I do not know if when I post this video the review will be on the website, but if you are catching this episode way after it was released, then it must already be there on the website, so do check it. Reiji Amaha's Emerald Cross Amethyst, because it is bloody awesome, and I was not expecting to listen to Takuya Sato doing head voice, going for those high notes that you are almost like a unicorn for him, because you may know him as a bass singer. He's not a natural bass singer. Most people may be under that impression, but he's not a natural bass singer. Not even when he is performing with Fame in the Aopella franchise, he's not a true bass singer. He can dabble in bass, and if you listen to his performances with Fame, of course you know that he can more than give you a hearty bass performance, but he's not a natural bass singer. He's a low baritone, and that's why he can tap that high on his register, ending up delivering crystal clear head voice, which I wasn't expecting at all. In a way, when I was listening to his, when I listened to him first tackling head voice, it sounded for a split second that I was listening to Tetsuya Kakihara, because that's the exact same way in which Tetsuya Kakihara tackles head voice. Although Tetsuya Kakihara is more about falsetto than head voice. He's more technical with the falsetto. But I do recommend you to check Reiji Amaha's Emerald Cross Amethyst, because not only is the lead song really good, but the B-side with Shingaki Tarusuke, basically you have to listen to understand how freaking awesome that song is. Then, the other release that impressed me the most was Daiki Yamashita's Candle. I was not expecting city pop from Daiki Yamashita, especially after his first mini-album, Hear Me, was not that playful. It was a much serious CD, so to find something a bit more playful, a bit more relaxed was quite surprising for me. At the same time, this is a style of music that fits really well with how melodic Daiki Yamashita can be on the vocal end. There's really no problems whatsoever with his performance. He's actually one of the best singers among seiyuu, really technical, and he breezes through that performance without any issue. And the performance is really perfect. I must say, this is a song that you must add to your summer playlist, because it has that laid-back vibe, really warm and cozy in a way, and relaxed in its delivery. So you do have that. It's not a song that takes itself really seriously, but it's not a really bubbly song so do not expect it to be extremely bubbly. I must say this is more on the jazzier side of city pop than on the bubbly side. It is really good. It is a digital single, so you do have it available on streaming platforms of your choice. And lastly, we have Gran Rodeo's Question. This is a band that I really love a whole lot. How much they've grown so far is something that leaves me with a smile on my face, and Question is that type of CD. It encompasses or encapsulates a really good period in time for Gran Rodeo. The last couple of years have been pretty awesome in terms of music and their creativity, not to mention that this album doesn't have or doesn't feature any of the songs in the concept albums released so far, so you do have those concept albums as untouchable, and that was the perfect decision there, to not move any songs from those CDs to this full-length album. So you do have a couple of singles that were featured in anime. Of course, those will be the songs that most people will know about, but I feel like the side tracks and the new additions were pretty impressive. I do find it pretty interesting that Gran Rodeo, as they grow older, are approaching jazz music much more than usual. It is a sound that suits them. It is a sound that Iizuka knows how to make the best out of it, because blues fits really well with jazz and is quite the big fan of blues music. And Kisho, of course, adapts to almost every music genre, so you don't have really that much of a big deal when they shift from music genres, because Kisho can fit those pretty well without really an issue. It is a really interesting CD that starts off with a jazzy sound and with bluesy guitar riffs, which is pretty interesting, and wraps up with Before the Dawn, a song that is orchestral. So it is quite the shift in mood and tempo, and even in what the band wanted to showcase. So it is more of an eclectic release, more so than a cohesive release in which all songs make sense following each other. Do give a listen to Question if you love rock music. Do give a listen to Question if you enjoy Kisho's vocals, and really if you want to take a breather from all the pop and hip-hop that is in the 2D music industry, you do have really good rock and jazz, even funk to some extent, here with Gran Rodeo, so do give them a listen if you can. And that's all for my suggestions of CDs for you to check. Now let's see yours. So we have quite the list of recommendations in here. We do have Anna suggests, even though my musical preferences weren't as many as yours are, I do listen to a lot of music, but that's because I'm a really geek person about music itself, and I want to learn how to compose and to play different styles of music, so I do listen to a wide variety of music genres, even if I do not like those. For example, EDM music, I do not like it. There are a couple of exceptions, but for the most part I do not like EDM music, but I still listen to it because I want to know what are the trends, and because I want to know which are the new things being done on the instrumental side. Now, continuing. I must recommend Somasato's My Beautiful Valentine and In Bloom to everyone that maybe hasn't tried to listen to his complex, dark and twisted songs. If you want some easy listening, I recommend Good Mood by Yumo Chida. It was a good soundscape, ballad-like piano, and his soothing voice would bring you somewhere peaceful. But if you wanted more deep meaning, dark and twisted songs, Somasato songs would be my first recommendation. Yes, there's an issue with recommending Somasato's music, because I've come to the conclusion that most people do not like to listen to CDs from start to finish, and they appreciate more listening to songs scattered or shuffled, so there's a big issue there that will make most songs by Somasato not click with most people, because they are expecting for a song to click right away, like pop music does, and you can listen to any pop song taken from whichever CD you have, and it will sound good as a standalone, but Somasato songs need the context. and usually the context can be found within those CDs. This is all to say that his music is really complex. Yes, it is really complex, and well, let's not deny it. Not many people are willing to and have the patience to actually listen to something that will make them think and really expect something from them other than only entertaining them. So most people like to listen to music to entertain themselves, not so much to be asked questions by the performer or the singer themselves. So this may be something in which that makes it so that Soma Saito's music is not really that appealing to most people, because it is really complex and it demands in a certain way the participation of the listener in trying to understand the songs. And it's not really a question of demanding, it's more a question of it is so cryptic that the listener can't help but want to know more. And the way he leaves those lyrics quite open for your interpretation is a good way to make it so that you want to really stop and wait, let's see what you really meant with that. Because he has said before, the way he writes his lyrics, of course, when most people are looking for the lyrics, they'll look for it translated on the web or look for the Romaji version, but you are losing meaning when you basically read the lyrics translated to English or you see the Romanji translation, because Soma Saito is really detailed to the point in which you actually have to pay attention to the really subtle shifts in the way he actually writes in hiragana, katakana and kanji. He makes it so that the slight nuances in the way he writes those words, those sentences, is crucial for you to understand what he actually meant. So there's more depth to his performances and his lyrics than you actually can grasp from a translation. Of course, I'm not a fluent Japanese speaker, so I do understand quite a bit of what he is actually talking about and what he is actually covering, but those nuances in the kanji, hiragana and katakana are something that I do pay attention to, although I lose some of the meaning because I do not know all kanji, so I'm a bit lost in there, and some translations get a bit messy at times. But do try to understand the meaning of those songs if you are interested in that. So yes, for complex songs, music with depth is actually the only seiyuu artist that writes music that has depth. No, it's not true. It's not true, and I'm going to say that why it's not true in your question that you left for me in the Ask Vanessa corner. There's other voice actors that actually are trying to do so and be a little bit more complex in the way they approach their lyrics. So he's not the only one, but he's the best. He's really the best at writing lyrics, and writing lyrics that actually make you want to think. And they aren't really one-dimensional or simple. Of course, some people may want just a song to have fun too. For example, with Yumochida's Good Mood, you have a couple of songs that will, of course, that's a single that is mostly ballads, so it's not necessarily to have fun. But you do have songs that are really, really cozy, really laid back, and just wholesome. You do not have that with Soma Saito, and if you are looking for that, you won't find that with Soma Saito, never. But still, if you want complexity, it is as Anna said, do give a listen to My Beautiful Valentine and In Bloom, especially start from In Bloom and then come to My Beautiful Valentine. That's the intended order, and please do listen to the CDs from start to finish. Do not shuffle tracks. Even Soma Saito has recently said in an interview that these CDs are not meant to be shuffled. You have to listen to from start to finish for the story to make sense. If you are shuffling it, you lose the whole meaning behind the CD. You do not understand the story, and you are actually listening to the song standalone, which can be enjoyable. But if you want to actually dive into a story, listen to those CDs from start to finish, never skip songs, and never shuffle those. Saito has said, do not shuffle the songs, so that's the recommendation there that I leave you as well. My Beautiful Valentine is a fantastic EP, and In Bloom is quite possibly one of the best CDs ever released by a male seiyuu, so you have that there. So thank you very much for your suggestion. And there's all for your recommendations. Let's dive into the next corner. This episode is sponsored by all the Hand That Feeds HQ's patrons on Patreon. A big thank you for the support. And it's time for music in the horizon. So we're talking about the CDs that are going to drop in April 2022. April 2022 is, at least looking at my calendar of releases, a weak month. So there's not much being released in April because there's going to be a lot to be released in May. I do not know why, but still, you have a complete week of no releases from the 17th to the 24th, which is rare. Usually there are weeks and weeks straight that are filled with releases, and that week is completely empty. And I must say that the CDs that I'm looking forward to the most is, of course, EROSION's 5th entry in the Erosion With You from Carnelian Blood CD series. It is Toxin's entry, and I've said it before, I do love Shoya Chiba a whole lot, and I'm still waiting for him to announce a solo debut, so please do announce a solo debut. But I'm really looking forward to his entry as Toxin. It's the entry that wraps up this first CD series, this first solo CD series. So I want to listen to what he has to offer as a solo performer, and of course for Erosion's take on the very last song. After Yoru's entry with, of course, Erosion with OneThing and Yoru with Determination, I'm looking forward to the last entry. So far this CD series has been quite impressive, so I'm looking forward to Erosion's 5th entry in the Erosion With You from Carnelian Blood CD series. This one, of course, helmed by Toxin, which is voiced by Shoya Chiba. Then we have Takuyaguchi's Egurand. I've said it in the last episode that I'm looking forward to it because this time around there's Satoru Kuwabara, Yuki Honda, both from Art Refect, as well as Team Soma Saito, which is to say Soma Saito and Saku is a arranger working to write and compose plus arrange one of the songs for Takuyaguchi. I'm looking forward to it. I do not know what to expect, but if it is as good as the last mini album or the first mini album, and it is all about rock music, then I'm in for it. Of course I'm in for it, and I would love to see him tap a bit more into his vocal range, because Takuyaguchi does have a good vocal range. He's shown that quite a few times with Solids. If you follow the Skipro franchise, with Solids he does tap into his lower range, but he can go really high at times, even rapping, so you can have him clean singing and rapping within the same song, and he does both pretty well. So I'm looking forward to a more nuanced CD there. I want to see if he actually can pull off something with a bit more depth than the previous mini album, and something that illustrates a bit better how good of a singer he is, because we all know that he is, but most people coming across him as a solo artist and that may, for example, have not had any prior exposure to his singing may not even know that he is actually a good singer. So I would love to see him actually tapping a bit more into his vocal range and showing a bit more of his versatility, performing a wide variety of music genres, or a wide variety of nuanced music genres, or nuanced takes on rock music or pop rock music, which is the music genre that he actually embraced in egoism. So Egurand is one of the CDs that I'm looking forward to next month. And lastly, I'm looking forward to Anthos' Icon. It's been a while since Anthos released music, so I'm really looking forward to Anthos. I wouldn't say that I'm expecting something really impressive, especially after the previous release was a bit more tropically than I wanted. Then again, the group has been straying away from their ethereal sound. I do not know if that is intentionally because of the story, I'm not following the story once again, or if it is just something due to the trends be shifting and the group is adapting to those. Regardless, I look forward to it because I do enjoy music by Anthos and I love the Hanadol franchise for its music alone. Haven't had the time to actually dive deep into the story, but then again I'm following so many 2D music projects that it would be impossible to follow the story in all of them, and I'm only picking bits and pieces from what I listen within the songs and nothing more. So I do look forward to Anthos' Icon. I do hope that you actually are looking forward to it, because I do know that this is a franchise that is quite underrated overseas, and us international fans are very few, but still more than those in Japan, because you look at the sales numbers in Japan and it is atrocious. I do not know how Anthos or even Lolody sell that poorly in Japan, because they are two of the most unique idol groups currently active in the 2D music industry. Regardless, I'm looking forward to Anthos' Icon. Let's see how it sounds when it drops. I'm not going to listen to any preview, so you guys will know a bit better about the songs prior to the release. I will not know a thing until I review those. And now it is your suggestions, or your comments on CDs you are looking forward to. Now, Threes, welcome to the monthly review episode, first timer here. Threes says, not sure if it comes out in April yet, but definitely Makoto Furukawa's new single, Ibara Rinbukyoku. It's the song featured in the second cour of Requiem of the Rose King. All three songs in Ware Bara ni Insu highly impressed me, and I really look forward to what Furukawa has in store for us next. All fingers crossed. I do not know how to cross all fingers, so we're going to have, well, we're going to have this. Ibara Rinbukyoku drops. I believe they haven't confirmed so far. They will confirm in a couple of days, I'm sure, when the CD is going to drop. So right now, at the time that I am recording these, unless it has dropped the news while I was recording, which I hope it hasn't, I believe Ibara Rinbukyoku is going to perhaps be released in May, but still we haven't had a confirmation by Lantis, but I do look forward to it. I'm quite impressed with what he pulled off in Ware Bara ni Insu, and especially now knowing that he actually wants to move forward from classical jazz and give it a little bit of a twist with acid jazz and some EDM in the mix. Quite possibly some rock, because he has said before that he likes rock music, so I do not know what to expect, but seeing how Ware Bara ni Insu, all three songs, like you said, were really good, I'm really looking forward to the single, and I can't wait to actually see the cover art and the new artist photo and everything. That's something that I really love about while working at the THTFHQ, is that when they unveil the covers and the artist photos, you are actually seeing those for the very first time, and you get that excitement as if you are opening presents on Christmas Day. So I'm looking forward to it, and of course I'm looking forward to reviewing the single. For sure I am going to review it, so do look forward to it if you actually like to read reviews. If you don't pay attention to what I just said. Of course, thank you very much for participating, Threes. Anna has a CD here in the list of those that you guys are actually looking forward to, and the CD is Egurand by Takuya Guchi. Is currently what I want to look forward to. One of the reasons why Soma Saito composed one of the songs there, titled A Lonely Darling. The title alone sounds dark, so... But then again, Takuya Guchi is the opposite of Soma Saito as a solo artist, so it will be interesting to see how light and dark work together. It was interesting to see Soma Saito growing as a songwriter and artist, and Iguchi going to sing his composed song. Composed and written song, so Soma Saito is actually doing both. He wrote the lyrics and composed the song, which is to say Takuya Guchi is going to be performing a Soma Saito original, which is impressive. I believe it is going to be amazing. I hope they can have a duet together. A duet not so much because there's some logistic issues there. Kiramune is not sacred music, so I believe there's something that people do not notice that much. I do love the idea of dreaming about duets and collaborations between seiyuu. I also mentioned last year in a special video, that I would love to see some collaborations, especially Soma Saito and Yumu Uchida or Soma Saito and Makoto Furukawa. But you have to pay some attention to a couple of details in the background. Seiyuu are from different music labels, and being from music labels that are completely different leads to music labels demanding payment from the other and royalties, and usually the music label that is actually asking for someone to feature in a song doesn't want to really pay that much, so you usually don't have collaborations happening between seiyuu from different music labels. It can happen, but is really rare. You usually have collaborations within the same music label, and even those really never make it to a CD. So it's really tricky to say that Kiramune, that is basically Lantis, and Sacred Music, that is basically Sony Music Japan, would want to collaborate. That's more like, we are lucky that Soma Saito actually wrote the song for Takuya Guchi, but do not expect a collaboration anytime soon, unless something really awesome happens and both voice actors actually ended up asking their music labels quite intensely to collaborate, and that actually ends up happening. So I do not see that happening anytime soon, although once again I've like I said before, I would love to see collaborations between seiyuu. We won't have a direct collaboration, but you are going to listen to Takuya Guchi actually performing a song that you will be listening in Soma Saito's voice for sure. So it will be pretty interesting to see how he actually harmonizes with the feelings within the song that are Soma Saito's, and the composition, once again, that has Soma Saito's touch everywhere. I believe that with Soma Saito composing the song, for sure this is going to be an indie rock song. I'm saying this right now, but I'm already regretting it, because who knows what Soma Saito is going to compose. But still, I'm betting on an indie rock style of song. So thank you very much for your comment, Anna. And that's all for this month's Music in the Horizon. And let's dive into the last corner of this episode. And wrapping up this episode, we have the Ask Vanessa corner, that I believe that by now it's almost settled that it's going to be called Ask Vanessa. This month we only have one question, so I'm surprised that there's only one question this month. I believe you guys are actually pretty satisfied with what you are getting, so that's why there's no questions at all. The question is from Anna, and it is the following. I want to know more if there are any seiyuu artists or any CD that have the same complexity or the same vibe as Soma Saito's music brought. What do you think? To you, is there any seiyuu that has the potential to have the songs with the amazing composition as Soma Saito has? I'd like to hear your opinion. Thank you. So we have a double question and I already have an answer to both. So as far as complexity goes, I like to listen to really tricky songs, and I like to listen to music that makes me think. That's one of the reasons why pop music really doesn't click that much with me, because it is generic and I do not click with anything that is happening in those lyrics. So I find it more in rock music. So for starters, if you want to find music that actually clicks with you on a deeper level, you have to be willing to dive into rock and jazz music. Those are two music genres that can be really deep if well executed. So you have My Beautiful Valentine, you have In Bloom. Those are two awesome CDs that are mostly rock music. Of course, there's some pop rock in there, not necessarily pop music. You do have some instances in which Saito winks at pop, but of course that's not necessarily those are not necessarily pop albums. So to answer your question, which CD I would recommend you, I would quickly say, with the same complexity and a story to follow, for example, you do have Makoto Furukawa's From Fairy Tail. If you haven't heard it so far, that CD was released in the exact same day as Soma Saito's In Bloom. Actually, Soma Saito and Makoto Furukawa were kidding around with each other because they are both friends and they were releasing music in the same day. And with really introspective CDs. So you do have that there. You do have a fantastic CD that feels like reading a book. Makoto Furukawa really made sure that the CD, and especially because he was working with Satoru Kuwabara, that is a fantastic composer, really a music virtuoso, and he made sure that the compositions for Makoto Furukawa were as complex and entertaining as you could get, because Makoto Furukawa then would write lyrics that would make you stop to think, what is this story going on in here? Why are we going to use a clown as a metaphor in this song specifically? Why is the vibe so jolly but the lyrics aren't? Makoto Furukawa has all of that in From Fairy Tail, so if you do like a CD that has that introspective vibe that Soma Saito's music usually has, and will make you think, not to mention that it is a story from start to finish. From Fairy Tail is a concept album, so there's a story there, you can follow it from start to finish. Once again, do not skip songs, do not shuffle tracks. Since it is a concept album, you can't do that unless you want to actually miss the whole point of a CD. So I do recommend you to check From Fairy Tail by Makoto Furukawa as a CD that has a similar vibe to Soma Saito's. But other than him, no other seiyuu artist has music with the same depth and as the same complexity as Soma Saito has. So it is really hard to give you a second suggestion because there's no other seiyuu out there doing that. Makoto Furukawa tried that with From Fairy Tail and he actually achieved it. With Room of No Name you still have a concept in there, you still have a story in there, but it's not as complex, so I can't recommend you necessarily that CD if you're looking for something similar to what Soma Saito creates. Still, if you want to listen to loungy music and want to listen to a concept album once again, of course that's a concept mini album, it is really good, but not on the level of From Fairy Tail. That's really a fantastic CD that feels like reading a book. So before I was starting to talk like crazy about Soma Saito, and before even Soma Saito was a solo artist, there was already one seiyuu that had compositions that were really interesting, and that seiyuu himself was doing almost everything, almost like Soma Saito is doing right now. It is of course Toshiyuki Toyonaga. So if you want to listen to music that has a really personal touch, and of course Somasato composes songs in a really specific way that is a result of his experiences, the music he listens to, the movies he watches, the things he comes across, the literature that he is exposed to. That's a really different background from all other seiyuu artists. Toshiyuki Toyonaga, for example, is a music virtuoso. He plays the drums, he plays the piano, he plays the guitar, he likes to sing, he knows how to sing really well, and he even knows how to produce his own songs. So he's a different type of composer, he's a different type of singer-songwriter, he is a producer, something that Somasato isn't. So I do recommend you to check Music of the Entertainment. It continues to be a CD that I recommend everyone to check. It is a CD released in 2014, which is basically an old CD by now, but it is so worth checking. And it still sounds as modern as you can get. You really could have said to me that that CD had been released today, and I would have believed it, because it sounds really good right now. So good like it did in 2014. So if you want really to check a voice actor that really goes the extra mile in the way they compose their songs, the care they have for their music, and that they really sit behind the mixing table and are discussing things with the producer and actually want to have their input in as many things as possible within their music, then it is Toshiyuki Toyonaga. He does it better than anyone else. Of course, he's no Somasato in the terms of Somasato is a unique composer. The same I can say that Somasato is no Toshiyuki Toyonaga, because they are both completely different styles of singer-songwriters. You would, of course, have to distance yourself a little bit from what you are expecting from Somasato's music when you arrive at Toshiyuki Toyonaga's music. But once again, Toshiyuki Toyonaga is a bit like Somasato. He likes to experiment with music genres, but at the core it is indie rock music. So you do not leave or do not miss that core rock sound, but you can expect Toyonaga to dive a little bit into jazz, a little bit into enka, and he can perform enka, so do expect really awesome performances. He can go for those beautiful ballads. You do not have ballads with Somasato, do remember that, or do have that into attention. Somasato does not perform ballads, at least so far. He hasn't released what you'd call necessarily a ballad. On Toshiyuki Toyonaga's side, you do have plenty of ballads. When you arrive to Toshiyuki Toyonaga's music, you do have that complexity, but you do not have as much depth. If that is an issue for you, of course, I can't recommend you Toshiyuki Toyonaga. But if you are looking for a seiyuu that actually spends time behind the mixing table with the producer and actually plays some of the instruments, writes his own lyrics, or most of those, and even composes his own songs, and participates in the creative process, then you have Toshiyuki Toyonaga. There's only two seiyuu right now that are actually really active in the creative process of their own music. It is Somasato and Toshiyuki Toyonaga. So if you want to find another seiyuu that actually has the same approach to their music, that actually have a lot of love for what they create and want to deliver the best for their fans, not necessarily to sing what others wrote for them, you have Toshiyuki Toyonaga. Once again, making comparisons between seiyuu is unfair, because different, even within the same voice tone or vocal range, you have a multitude of nuances, and even as singer-songwriters, you can't put all singer-songwriters in the same bag and saying that all are the same, because they aren't. What the experiences they have and all the baggage that they bring as fans of music, movies, literature, art will affect the way they write. Their personal experiences will affect how they write. So you can't really make comparisons between seiyuu artists and tell that, or basically say that one is better than the other. No, one is good at what they do and the other is good at what they do. You can of course say that between tenors one is more technical than the other, but are both good? Yes. Or are both bad? Well, it can happen as well. but you really making comparisons is a bit unfair, and I did that comparison only for you to understand what you're getting when you dive into Toshiki Toyonaga's music. So there's that. I thoroughly recommend you to check Toshiki Toyonaga's music. My suggestions would be to fall into that complexity level, Toshiki Toyonaga. And that's all. I hope this answers your question. If it didn't, please ask me again. I don't know, from another angle. And that's all for this corner, Ask Vanessa. And that's it for this episode of Monthly Review. So 2022 has been pretty awesome so far, with quite the unexpected batch of releases being really good. I know that so far I've reviewed, and I keep track of that every year, I've reviewed 36 CDs and only one was genuinely bad. All other CDs were really good. I feel like we, rock fans, I'm going to talk for all of us, I hope you guys do not feel bad about it, but I feel like us rock music fans that actually love seiyuu music and 2D music, of course, are being spoiled this year. The rock music has been really awesome so far. EROSION are on a roll. We have Vanity finally showing what they are made of. We have Gyroaxia that are really absolutely awesome. Then we have, as solo artists, Soma Saito absolutely throwing everything he can at you with his unique brand of rock music that makes you think time and time again. So we are being spoiled as rock music fans, and I hope this trend goes on throughout the year, and that we can be here in December talking about the fantastic rock songs that were released throughout the year, and really have a big smile on our faces, because rock music was never as much loved as it is right now, which is pretty unexpected and awesome at the same time. Of course, March 2022 was all about hip-hop, and both Hypnosis Mic and Paradox Live franchises were active, releasing kind of polarizing CDs. I'm more inclined to say that Fling Posse's Kizuato ga Kizuna Naru was the best hip-hop release of the month, but that's only because that song caters best to my tastes. There's plenty of variety in Paradox Live's Road to Legend, so do check it if you want to, or do check it if you are curious about it. It's well worth giving a listen, at least if you are looking for subgenres within hip-hop music, usually. If you are not that type of fan that is really fanatic about a specific project, and you actually think that Hypnosis Mic and Paradox Live are two projects and fans can only be fan of one or the other, if you are that type of relaxed person, a bit like myself and most people that have commented, you are the type of person that listens to a little bit of everything. So I do welcome you to, if you listen to Kizuato ga Kizuna Naru and find it really awesome, and actually found the United MC song really good, give it a listen to Paradox Live's Road to Legend. You have more songs of that style, and you have songs exploring raps and hip-hop's subgenres in there. So I do welcome you to do so, especially because the performances and the music is really different from that you find in Hypnosis Mic. Both projects are really good, so you can listen to music from one or the other, and you are really being spoiled by both. So this is all from me in this month, and I look forward to seeing you all in April 2022 for another talk. And this time around, of course, I know that I'm going to talk a lot about Takuya Eguchi's Egurand. So I look forward to your comments. Once again, do pay attention to the Hand at THTFHQ's social media accounts, as well as here on YouTube, because I will leave a notification for you to actually participate in the survey. Notifications are made weekly until, of course, it gets really close to the end of the month and I have to close the survey to actually work on the video. So thank you to everyone that participated. Of course, I read all comments, but I didn't cover all because most were from CDs that were released months ago, and the questions that I made were about the releases in March. Thank you very much for participating once again, and if you found anything to be interesting and I haven't mentioned in this episode, do leave that in the comments. I look forward to reading your impressions and hang out with you in the comments. Thank you very much for participating and watching this video up until now. So, see you all next month.